Again, as with last chapter, massive trigger warning for child abuse, homophobia, transphobia, trauma, and the like. Hello, thieves, assassins, and rogues of ambiguous gender. Welcome back to another chapter of Hogwarts Bouquet audiobook, an AO3 fanfic by ElizabethEmerald. Chapter 10 is titled, Health Check for Harry Potter. Nymphadora Tonks parked the car around the corner from Privet Drive. She pulled down the visor to look at herself in the mirror, making a few adjustments to her appearance. Hiding her piercings, changing her hair black. She thought about having it longer, but she liked it short and didn't want it getting in her eyes if it came to a fight. Instead, she let it sweep to the side, though she did put a blue-dyed streak in her hair.
Trainee Tonks!
She jumped at the curt voice next to her. Alistair, Mad-Eye, Moody sat in the passenger seat of the ministry vehicle they were borrowing. They were both wearing suits, trying to look as muggle as possible, though there was a limit to how normal Mad-Eye could be made to look. At least he had a magical eye hidden by his eye patch.
This is an important mission. To confirm the presence and health of Harry James Potter. Will you be able to treat this mission with the seriousness it deserves, or will you have to stay in the car?
No, sir, Tonks said, quickly closing the visor, keeping a part of her mind focused on maintaining her disguise. Her abilities as a metamorphagus were closely tied to her emotions, and she couldn't let her trainer catch her letting her emotions override her sense. This mission has my full attention.
Good. Remember, constant vigilance. You never know where a threat may come from.
Moody again reminding her of the lesson he had spent all summer drilling into her head.
Now, if we have to enter the house, you focus on the boy and make sure he's safe and healthy. I'll handle the muggles.
Understood. Tonks nodded and started the car again. They pulled around the corner and she parked in front of number 4. She pulled out a clipboard and pretended to show it to Moody while he examined the house with his magical eye. She sighed mentally, though didn't let it show in her face. This would be such a boring mission. She thought they would even leave the car. Mad-Eye would use his magical eye to find the boy from the street, see he's happy and playing video games, and leave. A boring mission for sure. However, she watched Mad-Eye's already stern face grow even more grim.
I can't see the boy from here,
he growled, then undid his seatbelt and opened the car door.
Take point on the entry, Trainee Tonks.
Yes, sir. Maybe she should have been content with a boring mission. She stepped up to the door as Moody limped behind her, using a cane rather than his usual staff, though it was still packed to the gills with magic and different enchantments. Tonks knocked on the door, even though she had seen Petunia Dursley spying on them from the front window. When they pulled up, it still took several more knocks before she opened the door a crack. Good morning, madam, Tonks said, keeping her voice even and professional. We don't want any solicitors, and we don't give to charity, Petunia interrupted in a waspish voice. Tonks blinked but didn't let the rudeness get to her. We're not a charity, ma'am. My name is Trainee Tonks, and this is Aura Moody. We have received some concerns about the health of one Harry James Potter. May we come in and speak to him? Petunia glared at them for a long moment before she started to close the door. There's no one by that name who lives here. The front door thunked into Moody's leg as he jammed it into the doorway. Shoving the door open, he stepped in, forcing Miss Dursley to back up. Let in! She called as she backed further into her house. Tonks carefully closed the door behind them so that the neighbors wouldn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Vernon Dursley stomped into the room, followed by his son. His face immediately became tomato red with rage as he sighted the pair.
What is the meaning of this?
He shouted. Tonks had her wand in hand as he took a heavy step towards them.
Trainee Tonks, restrain these muggles,
Mad-Eye ordered. Tonks whipped her wand through the air, fine ropes bursting from the tip to bind Petunia and the boy to dining room chairs. Vernon roared like an animal and snapped like the ropes that had started to wrap around him. He charged in a blind fury. "Stupefy!" Tonks snapped, firing red sparks at him. The stunner caught the massive man square in the chest, and he fell hard on his face. Tonks waved her wand again, and the ropes hauled him up and bound him tightly to another chair. She breathed out in relief, though didn't fully relax, keeping her wand on the family.
"Well done on the stunner, trainee,"
Moody growled.
"Next time start with the largest threat first, but otherwise, good job."
Praise from Mad-Eye Moody was rare but always earned, so Tonks let herself feel a thrill of pride. Magic tingled across her scalp, changing her hair color now that her concentration was broken. But it was okay that her hair was bright purple now. Moody again fell silent behind her. She guessed he was carefully inspecting the house for any threats or sign of Harry. He grunted after a moment and limped over to the stairs and a small cupboard there.
"Trainee Tonks, you're going to need to witness this,"
he growled, though there was a strange hesitance in his usually gruff voice. Tonks blanched. Stunning or restraining muggles prior to obliviating them was almost standard practice for aurors in non-magic neighborhoods. However, having to witness something was closer to having another testimony sworn in before the Wizengamot. This was serious. She shuffled sideways, keeping her eyes and her wand on the Dursleys till she was next to Moody's position.
"I have them,"
he muttered, and she knew without asking that he was watching them with his magical eye, so she turned to look at the small linen closet. Her stomach sank as he undid the latch to open the cupboard, revealing a small stained cot. The room had a single burnt-out bulb, and cobwebs filled the corners. Moody crouched down to get a clear view of the room. He waved his wand, and a green glow filled the room, highlighting different stains in shades of green.
"Note: multiple blood stains. Most recent several weeks old, but dating back years,"
Moody growled. "Noted," Tonks whispered as she struggled to speak past the lump in her throat. If their testimony was taken later, even by Veritaserum or Pensive, that their recollection of the events had to be clear. Another spell, and the space filled with a faint red aura as the green glow faded.
"It appears that this was until recently the primary living space of Harry James Potter, though he has not been here for a period of weeks, exact time unknown."
Moody turned to the bound Dursleys.
"Do you deny that Harry Potter lived and was apparently restrained in this space?"
His growling voice seemed to scare Petunia Dursley witless for a moment. However, she was able to shake her head. He sighed and shook his head. He glanced at Tonks before rising to his feet.
"This one is over our head, trainee. We've confirmed that Harry Potter is not safe with his relatives, and by the looks of things has not been safe here for some time, if he ever was."
Tonks sat in the Ministry car, tapping her hands anxiously against the steering wheel. They were on their way back to the Ministry of Magic, where they were about to file their report to Dumbledore, then forget about everything they had seen. She wasn't sure she could. Her overactive imagination had fueled her metamorphic abilities, and it was running haywire, creating scenario after horrible scenario of how Harry must have been hurt in that house. "How are we supposed to do this?" she asked. Moody was still in the car next to her, and had been quiet with his own thoughts since they had left the Dursleys. He sat up straight and turned to her when she finally spoke up. "My dad always said if you see something wrong and don't act to fix it, it's as bad as you'd done it yourself," she said. "And my mom always talked about her cousins, about how they hurt people." She pulled the car over to the side of the road, unable to focus on driving. She knew her hair was changing colors every few minutes, staying mostly dark and limp. She turned to look at her mentor, desperation on her face. "People need to know. The Wizarding world needs to know that Dumbledore allowed this to happen and ignored repeated signs of Harry mistreatment, and now the boy's out there, alone, with no knowledge of our world, where any person could hurt him or take advantage of him. I feel like I should send a letter to the Prophet or something."
"You will do nothing of the sort, trainee Tonks,"
Moody growled. "I don't think I can, in good conscience, pretend like nothing happened here. I have to do something."
"Tonks, you are not even a true trainee Auror yet. You are a summer intern with another year of Hogwarts left, and your whole career ahead of you. The only way you would get away with revealing this kind of information would be if you were a career aura with numerous successful captures under your belt at the very edge of retirement.
Do you think I care more about my career than... Tonks paused as she considered what exactly Moody had just said. He looked at her very seriously.
You will write your report as directed. You will wash your hands of this case, and there will be no official statement of your involvement in any manner or form. Then, if any word does get out into the wider public, it will have nothing to do with you, and you will still have an entire life of doing the work you want to do, of protecting those who can't, ahead of you. Do I make myself clear, Trainee Tonks?
She nodded her head, guilt and shame warring in her chest.
Potter will be found, and when he is, we will make sure that he has never returned to those scum.
Tonks pulled out onto the street again, driving back towards the ministry. Several days later, after Nymphadora Tonks' summer internship officially ended with the Aurora Department, an owl winged its way to the Daily Prophet. In the office of the most popular wizarding newspaper in Britain, the presses were immediately stopped as a new headline was written up and sent out. A week later, as the news shook the wizarding world, a copy of the Daily Prophet was carried into Azkaban by a ministry official inspecting the space.
May I have your paper?
Asked the raspy voice of Sirius Black.
I like the crossword.
True enough, the corner of his cell had a small pile of old papers, each with carefully filled out crossword puzzles. When the official departed Azkaban, Sirius turned the paper to the front page and felt as if his soul was torn from his body, as surely as if the Dementors had done it, as he read the headline.
The boy who lived, or the boy who vanished? Searchers continue to find Harry Potter, otherwise known as the boy who lived, after his defeat of he who must not be named in his infancy. He had been left with his Muggle relatives, who, according to our sources, were very much less than kind to him at the behest of Albus Dumbledore, bypassing wizarding law on the protection of children. It is believed that Potter fled his relatives' care, despite his young age, due to his treatment at their hands. No trace has yet been found of the boy who lived, as anyone who has found any sign of him is instructed to reach out to their local Aura's office, so he might be brought back into the protection of the Ministry of Magic. Albus Dumbledore was unavailable for questioning regarding his decision to abandon the child with Muggles, or the claims that he had repeatedly ignored concerns over the boy's welfare.
Thank you for listening to this chapter. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.